It gives me very great pleasure to introduce the Right Honourable Francis Maude, MP, Minister for the Cabinet Office and Paymaster General in Her Majesty's Government. The British Government has shown a very strong commitment to the subject that brings us all here today. This has been evident across all ministries, from Defence and the Foreign Office to Treasury and indeed the Prime Minister's Office. This commitment was further demonstrated in discussions between President Obama and Prime Minister Cameron just over a week ago in London on cybersecurity cooperation between the two countries. As Tim Dowse reminded us this morning in the panel he chaired, the ratification by the UK just a week ago of the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime, which had been signed by the UK in 2001 but not ratified, was a clear sign that for this government, as for many others, the pathways in cybersecurity are as much international as they are domestic. As you know, the work of the East-West Institute in Cybersecurity, the summit, and its more than 400 registered participants, is intended to quicken the pace and deepen the levels of international cooperation to secure our electronic information and associated digital networks. We are honoured that your government, sir, has shown such strong support for our work through your participation here today. Your portfolio mission of leading government reform, now understood very much as e-government, will depend critically on getting the cybersecurity aspect of it just right. Your distinguished career gives us confidence that you can deliver against the task, not least in shaping the more robust private-public cooperation needed, including between the Cabinet and the boardrooms of global businesses located in the UK. Your policy credentials include ministerial service in the Foreign Office, the Treasury, and the Department of Trade and Industry. Your experience as chairman of the Conservative Party, as co-founder of the Policy Exchange, one of the leading think tanks here, and your work in criminal law following graduation from Cambridge University further supports your qualifications to lead breakthroughs in international collaboration for enhanced cybersecurity. In particular, your familiarity with the financial services sector, gained in your professional career when the Conservative Party was out of office, puts you in a special position to understand the needs of that sector for information and network security. It's therefore with keen anticipation of your future contribution in coming months and years to this field that I invite you to address the second Worldwide Cybersecurity Summit.
Well, Francis, thank you very much indeed for that introduction. It's a great pleasure to be with you at this stage. You've had a long day, and I realise that you haven't got very much to go before you are unleashed on drinks and dinner, and it's always a slightly uncomfortable thing to be the only thing standing between several hundred tired people and their first drink of the day. Well, I assume it's the first drink of the day. May easily not be. But it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon and to share with you some of UK's perspective on cybersecurity, and to say a little bit about where it fits alongside my already existing responsibilities as Minister for the Cabinet Office. But first of all, I want to pay tribute to the redoubtable lady from whom I've taken over these responsibilities, Pauline Neville-Jones, who I'm delighted to see in the front row here. Pauline, you all know Pauline. She has a formidable experience in cybersecurity and a real passion for the subject. And I think if anyone should take credit for pushing it up the agenda for the British government in the last year, Pauline must have that credit. She has been absolutely... She has been completely indefatigable in her efforts to do that. She saw the threat clearly, made sure that in the British government's Strategic Security and Defence Review that it received important consideration and thus it features so high in the UK government's list of priorities. So, Pauline, everyone is enormously indebted to you for your efforts as the Security Minister with this responsibility, and I'm particularly delighted that you accepted the Prime Minister's invitation to take up a new role as the government's special representative to industry on cybersecurity, and I'm looking forward very much to working with you, as I know everyone else will be, in that new capacity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Minister for the Cabinet Office, actually Ministers for the Cabinet Office often end up with a kind of odd rag bag of responsibilities, kind of being a depository for things which don't sit naturally elsewhere. And actually, my portfolio of responsibilities does hang together coherently. Obviously, they're all responsibilities which are cross-cutting. The Cabinet Office sits at the centre of government, and everything that we do is actually about trying to make things happen in a consistent basis across government. I suppose my principal responsibility is for the government's efficiency and reform agenda, trying to ensure that at the time of intense fiscal stringency and retrenchment, that we not only can control costs and cut costs and take out waste, but ensure that we reform public services in a way that in these demanding financial circumstances we can actually deliver public services, or public services can be delivered to the standard in a way that the public are now becoming demanding of. I also have responsibility, and these two things are intensely related, for the government's agenda on transparency, the desire to open up for public scrutiny as much public sector information and data as possible, so that we who are in public service can be held accountable, so that we can make public services, the users of public services, able to exercise choice and control on a much more informed basis than has been the case in the past. And thirdly, to, by the release of data to the public, allow it to be exploited both commercially and socially, so that there is a growth agenda, both an economic growth agenda and a social growth agenda in the release of public sector data and information. But of course, central to both of these agendas, the transparency agenda and the efficiency and reform agenda, is technology and the internet. Technology on its own, of course, is not enough. It needs to be underpinned by genuine confidence in its use, confidence that it will work, that the projects will be well managed and will deliver, confidence that it's resilient, and confidence that it's secure. And that confidence must be shared equally by the providers of these services, the government and contractors on the government's behalf, and by the consumers of these services, industry and the general public. When we talk about cybersecurity, it's easy to, the way it gets talked about, to conclude that somehow the internet is a massive problem. Like when we talk about the pensions time bomb, the assumption behind it is almost as if people living longer is a bad thing. Well, it's a really good thing, people living longer. I'm proposing to live quite a lot longer myself. The internet, when we talk about cybersecurity, it's as if the internet is all about a problem. It isn't. The internet is wonderful. It's transforming. It has opened up possibilities for people that were undreamt of, literally undreamt of, inconceivable, and has been empowering and liberating, and will be more so. We're only in the infancy of what can be done, what people can do with the internet. And a century ago, the invention of the motor car spawned an age of mass travel. It took time for it to deliver, but it was liberating and empowering for people, the freedom to explore, to investigate, to widen their horizons, become intimate not just with their own immediate locality, but with a whole world beyond, to remain connected with family and friends more remote from themselves. It transformed people's lives, and overwhelmingly for the better. Of course, there were risks. There are risks. There are road accidents. People are injured and sometimes sadly killed in road accidents. And we need rules and regulations to make it as safe as it can be. But it remains the case that cars have been a force for the good. Similarly, the superhighways of the internet are transformative for the good. But similarly, we need the rules and we need the crash barriers and the speed cameras, not to stop people using the internet, but to allow them to do so as safely as is possible. For us in government, as we seek to cut the cost of public services but improve their quality and their accessibility and the choice that people have, moving public services online is a key objective. And I'm hugely indebted to Martha Lane Fox, founder of one of Britain's pioneering internet businesses, lastminute.com, for the work she did last year reviewing the way in which we approach this. And she came up with this concept of digital by default, the presumption that where as public service is capable of being delivered online, it should be, and that over time the non-online, the physical channels of delivery should be closed down, hence digital by default. And we know that there's enormous amounts that can be done to drive public services in this direction. I pay tribute to the work done by the last government in DVLA, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, where you can now renew your car tax online in a way that is massively easier and better for the user, for the citizen, but is also fantastically cheaper. The non-online transaction costs £1 a time. Online, it's 10 pence a time. It's much better service for much less money, and this can be done. But if we're going to do this, we're going to drive services online towards digital by default, we need people to be able to assure their identity. And that's something we are driving hard at the moment, not with a sort of single big brother state-run way of assuring identity, but with a rich ecosystem of identity providers, and we're working on the standards that will underpin that new approach. So that my new responsibilities for cybersecurity fit well with the existing portfolio of efficiency and reform and transparency. The cybersecurity remit obviously goes far beyond underpinning the essential confidence in the UK government's specific slice of cyberspace. When it comes to delivering the government's national cybersecurity programme, the emphasis is on the word national, not government. It's about underpinning confidence that the UK is a safe place to do business in cyberspace, and that in turn that means engaging with the public, with industry and with other countries to ensure that we all benefit from a safe, secure and resilient cyberspace. To achieve this, we need to tackle the insidious nature of cybercrime and the near-industrial scale of cyber espionage. It's hard to pin down exact figures, but a recent study suggests that cybercrime now costs the UK alone £27 billion annually, 2 billion or so to government, 3 to individuals in the form of fraud and ID theft. By far the largest portion, 21 billion, to industry in the form of theft of intellectual property, customer data, and price-sensitive information. These are only clearly rough estimates, but they give an idea of the vast scale of the problem. Wouldn't like to hazard a guess as to the global cost of such criminality, but it's clearly a major inhibitor of international growth and prosperity. And it's good that this is now being acknowledged at the highest levels. And as you've mentioned in your introduction, during President Obama's visit to the UK last week, he and David Cameron issued a joint communique on this subject, and it was discussed again the next day at the G8 summit in France. Quote just one sentence from the final communique, which sums up our joint approach very succinctly. The UK and the US, they said, will work together to nurture and accelerate the opportunities and growth that cyberspace offers the global economy by building international consensus on the broad principles that will sustain and enhance the prosperity, security and openness of our networked world. It was precisely with this aim in mind that when he spoke at the Munich Security Conference in February, my colleague William Hague outlined 7 principles for behaviour in cyberspace. He offered to host a conference in London this autumn to help to develop that international consensus. Planning for the London International Cyber Conference is now underway, at which work will begin on fleshing out those 7 principles into a set of workable, enforceable norms. In addition to senior government figures from around the world, representatives of the private sector, of civil society and academia will be invited, so as to ensure that a wide spread of voices is heard. But it's all very well talking internationally about the future shape and nature of cyberspace. We also, however, need to act now to secure what we've achieved so far. The Budapest Convention on Cybercrime, designed to speed up the investigation of computer crime that crosses national borders, is currently one of the primary weapons in our international armoury. And I'm pleased that the UK has just joined the growing list of countries that have ratified this convention. As well as acting internationally, countries also need to act nationally. And that's why we now have a national cyber security programme. It was in our national security strategy. It cites cybersecurity as a tier 1 risk, one of only 4 such, the others being international terrorism, a major industrial accident or natural disaster, and an international military crisis. After a year's preparatory work, our national cybersecurity programme has begun to go live. We've allocated £650 million of new funding to it over the next 4 years, which at a time of financial stringency, when actually budgets over the piece have been cut and cut significantly for the first time actually in 80 years in this country, is a significant mark of the importance and weight which we attach to this threat. Designed to tackle cybercrime and industrial espionage, as well as threats to national security, the remit of the programme is broad. There will be new money for GCHQ, that's Britain's electronic surveillance headquarters at Cheltenham, and to a new cyber capability within the Ministry of Defence. But it'll also go into the police, into developing formal training courses in schools and colleges, into a public awareness campaign, and into learning from the private sector, which is often far in advance of government in this field. And I do stress the importance of that close collaboration. One of my responsibilities is to coordinate work across the public sector on tackling fraud and error. Fraud alone costs the public sector some £21 billion a year, the National Fraud Authority estimates. I chair a task force from across the public sector, but on which sit 3 fraud experts from 3 of the major banks who bring important insights. They also learn, they say, from their involvement in the task force, but they bring important insights from the world they work in. And that cross-collaboration and cross-fertilization is absolutely crucial for the future. Cybercrime, let me repeat, is something that concerns all of us. Year by year, the internet becomes ever more integral to our societies. And we are, as I say, only in the infancy here. It's integral to the way we socialize, the way we do business, the way we shop, the way we learn, the way we pay our taxes, how we choose a surgeon for an operation or a school for our children. Whole new communities, new businesses, ways of becoming better informed or simply having fun exist on the back of a technology that's still only 20 years old. As with the early motorists, there's still a long way to go. And all we can say for sure about the journey is that it'll get to places today we can't even imagine. For that to happen, the highway needs rules and policing, not so as to restrict its use, but to keep it as safe and reliable as it can be and open to all. Keeping that highway open isn't, and I stress this again, only the task of governments. State-sponsored internet attacks, cyber warfare in the slang, is what gets most media time, as do government's own moves, like our own new cyber capability within the MOD to combat them. But this isn't just James Bond territory. As I pointed out earlier, in Britain, the large majority of financial losses attributable to cybercrime, 21 billion estimated out of 27 billion, are borne not by government, but by business. How to get those numbers down should be on the agenda not just of politicians, but of CEOs, of business people. It's a subject for the boardroom, not just for the cabinet room. Making it happen means working together. It means forging relationships between government departments and agencies, but more importantly, between public and private, across borders and with wider society, right down to each individual one of us sitting at home in the glow of our all-enabling laptops. The internet is an amazing, wonderful thing, and we want to keep it that way and let it grow and enrich our lives yet further. We, the government, hope we are playing our part. We invite everyone else to join us in playing yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minister, for finding the time in what is clearly a very full day as you pursue what is obviously a portfolio of enthusiasms. We are delighted to be here in London for this conference, and having heard you, we now have a clear idea of how the United Kingdom is embarking and continuing its work in this area. So thank you very much indeed for joining us.